Hey there, welcome in. My name's Josh, and today we're going to be talking about how to maintain your mental health as an artist. So I made two videos in the past, skill versus talent, part 1 and 2, and I talk about, being born on first base versus third base, and, pride and everything like that, and that's all true, and that's all great, but sometimes it's still really hard to maintain a good headspace with art, especially when you find people who aren't born on third base, they're born on home plate. And by this, I'm talking about the Beethovens, I'm talking about the Shakespeares, I'm talking about the Leonardos, I'm talking about the people who are so exceptionally genius and brilliant that no amount of effort could ever compare to, you'll never be able to surpass them. And these people do exist. There are people who are just blessed by God to have an exorbitant amount of skill, but the thing that you don't realize is that when people are that skilled at something, that's their whole life. Honestly, if you're watching this video right now, I almost guarantee you're not a Shakespeare, or you're not a Bach, or you're not Leonardo, because honestly, they're busy painting or composing or writing right now, and they're not watching a YouTube video. That's how insane it is. And it can be really discouraging when, you feel like you're trying really hard, but nothing you do seems to be you'll never be able to compete with it. Maybe you know one of these people in real life, and you're like, you know what, if I can't be better than XYZ, if I can't be better than my Leonardo friend, then what's the point? What's the point? I might as well just stop. If I can't beat them, they make me feel terrible. They make me hate my life because they're so good at art. And that's just a bad premise. Why is you doing art dependent on anybody else in the first place? Don't get me wrong, I get that feeling of hating yourself when you look at somebody more talented. So look at me, I'm 23, I'm almost 24, and I started art when I was 21. And right now, when I go on Instagram at the end of 2018, 2019, I see these kids in college, and I see them in high school, and they are doing exponentially better art than me, right? And it can be really hard sometimes, because I'm like, what am I doing with, look at these kids, they're so good. When they're my age, they're gonna be better than I am now. What's the point? They're gonna, honestly, why do I even bother? And I get that, but again, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're better than you. Because here's the thing, you're creating art because you have something to say and are saying in a way that only you can. That's how copyright works. Copyright protects your expression of that idea. If you have an idea for a story of, a snowman getting a hammer and murdering 17 kittens, cool. You can copyright that, whatever it is, that screenplay, that book, whatever, of that snowman with a hammer killing 17 kittens. Great, kind of morbid, but you copyrighted it. Listen, you didn't copyright that concept. You didn't prevent anybody from never making that story ever again. What you protected was your expression of that account. Does that make sense? Meaning, there could be 100 different stories and 100 different versions of a snowman killing 17 kittens with a hammer, but only one of them is yours. And he's like, well, that's copyright, they stole my idea. It's nah, kind of, but again, one of those, is gonna stand out from the rest. The key to keeping good headspace is to realize that you have something worth saying to the world that only you can, and no amount of artistic skill can take that away from you. Another big piece of advice that could help you keep your headspace is that don't compare yourself to anybody else other than yourself yesterday. Don't even compare yourself to you in the future of, oh, I'm gonna be so good one day, or I'm gonna be able to be so amazing. It's man, you could die tomorrow, you don't know. That's kind of morbid, but don't even do that, because then you're gonna be depressed because you're oh, how am I ever gonna live up to my great expectations of how great I wanna be? It's knock it off. Listen, all you have to do is think to yourself, look, am I better than I was yesterday, yes or no? Yes? Okay, good. Do I know something new today that I didn't know yesterday? I do? Good. And that's it. Because listen, it's better to find joy on the journey than to have momentary moments of happiness on the peaks of the journey as a whole. If you tally up how happy you feel, if you can learn to have joy on the journey, and you'll still have the happiness on the peaks, but then joy on the journey, if you tally up how much time you spent feeling happy, you'll have been more happy the longest if you can have more fun on the way to get there and not just on the peaks where you have a breakthrough. Does that make sense? Granted, this is a meme. Like, I mean, Shen sums it up pretty well with this. Like, I get that. That seems like a cliche, and it kind of is, but it's like, man, if you're struggling to better express your ideas on paper, or you're struggling to better communicate what it is in your head right now, you're already there. You're already in the rest of your life. That's never going to change. It's just going to change with how good you get. There is an interview with Krishna Amelia, one of my heroes, and he said, literally in 2018, that he did not like his art. And that's like, that's so depressing, because there are literally millions of people who would say otherwise. But yeah, it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter how good you are, you'll always be your harshest critic, and you'll always think that you could do better. And I talk about that before in another video, why good artists think they suck. So it's like, man, if you can just find joy, and if you can understand that if you're better than you were yesterday, you're growing, and that's enough, and you can be happy about that, then that's a win. Honestly. So just compare yourself to who you were yesterday. That's all you have to do. So to sum up, realize that only you can say the things that you can say in your head in the way that you can. No one else can take that away from you. Even if somebody else makes a story about a snowman murdering 17 kittens with a hammer, only you can say it in the way that's in your head. Alright? And in the same way, don't compare yourself to anybody else except for who you were yesterday. Alright? There's people on Instagram that, you know, it made me depressed, but I had to say this, you know what? I make good art too. Say that. When you see somebody that's amazing, don't be like, oh, I suck, oh, I'm the worst, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm just like, I'll curl into a ball. Be like, no, that's awesome, good for you, that looks amazing. I make good art too. Not because you're comparing and say, so look, mine's great, because that's what it is. You subconsciously make that comparison to be like, oh wait, I just hate my life. It's like, no, dang it. Be like, wow, that's great. I make good art too. Oh yeah? Says who? Says me, because it's better than it was yesterday, so up yours. So that's it for this Thoughtful Thursday. Remember, the only person you're allowed to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. That's it. You hear me? Nobody else, just you yesterday. And just remember, only you can say the things that are in your head the way that you can. And that's worth something, and the world needs to hear it. If you have a dream that keeps you up at night, that's worth saying. Alright? It's going to better the lives of the world, and it's going to alleviate suffering in the world, it's going to give people truth. It's worth saying. And you can say it better than anybody else. And that's something we're celebrating. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff you do anyway. I have an Instagram. Check it out, and I'll see all of you next week.